Riders, Happy New Year, and I hope everyone had a fantastic break with the family and friends. And to kick off 2023 with a bang, we are looking at what are the best 5 electric dirt bikes, electric motorbikes for 2023. And to understand this new and complex category, we have Tucker from the Electric Cycle Rider YouTube channel, and he is an expert in this category, and he's going to talk us through the ins and outs of picking that next electric dirt bike. And you will see I'm riding along Aldinga Beach, South Australia, and everything you see right now is shot on the Insta360 X3. In my opinion, the best action camera on the market right now. And this video is sponsored by Insta360, but more of them later. And riders, this is a podcast style, and it does run about 45 minutes. So if you do want to jump forward, check down in the timeline, and I have chapters stamped there, and you can go to what interests you most. So sit back and enjoy this very interesting podcast e-talk with Tucker. So Tucker, mate, welcome to Sam's Bikes, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
It is, what's the time over there for you?
We are about 4 p.m. here.
Okay,
yeah, what about you?
Yeah, it's about 9:30 a.m. and you know, I'm in Australia at the moment, so I don't have my beautiful studio. Sorry about that. I'm loving yours. Yours looks wicked.
I'm in the shop here in Colorado, so yeah, man, enjoying it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And mate, congratulations on the success of your channel. Like, it's blown up, dude.
Thanks, dude.
So tell me, for the riders out there who don't know Tucker, who is Tucker and how did he get started on YouTube?
Man, I didn't necessarily plan on ending up here. Like, that was the reason I got into this in the first place, was just a general interest in electric dirt bikes, because I'm a lifelong moto rider. I mean, it's just like my passion. I just love being on two wheels, and mountain bikes too. Like, I've just grown up since a kid. I was always on bikes and always riding dirt bikes. It's, you know, definitely my hobby and my passion. And here in Colorado, you know, you start to see some tracks getting shut down. We've got trails that are used by a lot of different people doing a lot of different activities. And it's, you know, generally, like, if you're not a dirt biker, people don't always like dirt bikers just because of the noise and kind of the disruption. And so, you know, that alone, I'm like, man, it'd be sweet to ride one of these electric dirt bikes, just to have that in the quiver if you want to go ride around stealth in the mountains or hit like a backyard track or something like that. I just thought it would open up so many possibilities. And not to say that there wasn't any content out there yet, because there definitely was. You know, you see like Josh Hill riding Red Bull Straight Rhythm on an Alta and stuff like that, where it's, you know, the brands were putting out some really cool content. But for me, I'm like, you know, I'm a normal average rider. Like, I just want to see what these bikes can do in the environment that I would be riding them in. Like, it's awesome to see a bike hit a supercross track, but like, I'm not riding supercross, you know, like, I want to see how these things perform and like on a trail setting, like somewhere where I'm going to actually ride it. And so, you know, I've been a cinematographer for the last more than a decade. And so I took my passion of moto and my skill set being a cinematographer and working in the publishing industry, and I was like, I'm just gonna start making videos. So I got a Sur Ron Light Bee X back in like end of 2018.
Okay.
And
yeah, man. So the channel's
just
about 4 years old. Is that right? About that?
Yeah, it's about 4 years old, right around there. Yeah.
Got around 45,000 subscribers.
I think that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Riders, go down into the show notes, subscribe to Tucker. I love your content, man. Like, we started talking, I want to say like 18 months ago. I just think there's and the story like yours, like I'm like press photographer. I did a bit of advertising, never videography. And I bought the new Sony A7 Mark III, and it shot videos, right? And I never shot videos before. And I was like, oh, I want to give myself a little project to learn how to shoot videos. And I'm definitely a doer. I would not like. So I was like, oh, I'll just make a video once a week on photography, and I got so bored of photography.
Yeah, for sure.
But my first video I did Sony versus Nikon, because I've been a long time Nikon shooter. Nikon, you guys,
Nikon. Yep.
Nikon. Um,
Yeah.
and and that video blew up. It got like 35,000 views in my first video. I was like, whoa. Then I was like, oh, I want to make it on mountain bikes. And then I came to Adelaide and rented a Merida E160. And there was 3 of us that went mountain bike riding. One guy broke his arm. He jumped something, and electric mountain bikes jump further than normal bikes, like kind of like
Yep.
motorbikes. He broke his
And
arm.
different weight.
Yeah, way different weight. He broke his arm, and my mate bought the E160. I went straight home and bought the YT decoy when I got back to Spain. And I started the channel like that. So we're kind of like,
Sick, man.
yeah,
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 same trajectory, you know. It's
yeah,
like,
totally. And
but
do you get like, I like that you said you're an average rider. I get people thinking I'm like a pro. I'm such an like I'm just the guy next door. I love to ride. I've never said I'm a good rider. I'm a capable rider, but like nothing amazing.
totally, man. It's all perspective, right? Like you fall wherever you are, but there's always somebody that's way better than you know. And it's like, you know, if I get a compliment like that, it's like, oh, I'm appreciative. But yeah, I mean, there are much better riders out there than me. But you know, it's got to take more than just riding to put the whole package together to put some of this content out. And so, um, good enough to ride the bikes to understand them and put them through their
Yep.
paces. But yeah, by no means am I like, you know,
The pro.
uh, yeah, pro by any stretch of the imagination. Not, yeah, not at all.
So I thought, well, riders, we are going to get into the top electric motorbikes. What do you call them? Electric dirt bikes? Electric dirt bikes we're talking about, aren't we?
See, that's what's crazy, Sam. Like we're still figuring this stuff out. It's I call them e-motos, electric dirt
E-motors.
bikes,
Yep.
e-dirt bikes, like dirt e-bikes. I mean, I've
Yep.
heard them called everything. Like for you, it's EMTB, but it's like it hasn't really reached that definitive
Yep.
title yet. But I
Yep.
call them emo. You know, I'd say emoto.
So love it or hate it, the e-motos are here to stay. And, you know, like well, they do get a little bit of stick in Europe just for the crossover. But Lorik, did you see Bruni just got one? Lorik Bruni just got one.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Lorik
No.
Bruni just got one. I'm not
Do
sure
you
what he
do you
got.
know what he got?
Think it might. I don't really know all the that. Like, I really like. I wanted to make this video, and I started looking into it. It is a can of worms, man. There's so many
Oh, for sure.
bikes. Like, it's just like the electric mountain bike market is just so. I don't know what he got, but I know he got one. Sam Hill got one as
Hmm.
well, and I think Piron got one as well. So all these World Cup downhillers are getting them. So I thought, first of all, we're going to look at the top 5. But first of all, can you explain to me what is an e-moto and how does it differ between an e-mountain bike? Because a lot of people that I think people think that we have throttles on our bike, but we obviously don't. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think your you know, your segment, electric mountain bikes, it's way more organized and structured. I feel like it's the wild west right now for electric dirt bikes or e-motos. Like
yep,
it's there isn't really these lanes. Like you have super light, you have trails, you have enduro electric mountain bikes, and they all fit in the categories based on basically like their suspension travel and geometry and stuff like that. But we don't really have that quite yet. It hasn't actually been defined, but basically what I would break it down into is like it's an electric dirt bike. You've got a throttle, you don't have pedals, you have pegs, and it can range from what I would call a lightweight e-moto, which is, you know, sub 150 pounds,
hmm,
to a midweight, which is going to be like 150 to, let's say, like 220,
yep,
somewhere in there. And then you've got your full size electric dirt bike, which
okay.
are going to most resemble, you know, a gas internal combustion electric or a regular dirt bike. So, so yeah, I'd say like light, mid, heavyweight, electric
And
dirt bikes.
are there any like speed limiters on them or anything like that? Not really.
Not really. I mean, there are like different classifications for street use, but for a dirt bike, it's just how much power does the bike have, and there it's most of them are just off road oriented bikes, and so it's all based on power and weight. So and it varies from the lightweight, midweight, and then full size.
Yeah. I kind of thought that moto would cross over more. Like, I mean, I'm a right mountain biker. I'm a terrible motorbiker. Like, we
Are
went
you?
out and I thought it'd be good. Like, we went out and rented some. What did we get? 250, two strokes, and we got all the kit. And I was at a motocross track. And I said, I'm not going unless I get a lesson because I don't know. Like, so we got a lesson for 2 hours, and I almost died, man. Like,
Yeah,
I just
for
like
sure.
I just couldn't work out. Like I was trying to take off a jump. I was jumping them like straight up. I was just like, whatever. This has got to
Yeah,
go. I was
yeah,
almost hitting the brakes, and like when I went off the lip, I accelerated, and just like classic errors, and also the foot brake. Just couldn't get my
yeah,
head over the foot brake.
for
Um,
sure.
And Legend Riders, I hope you're enjoying this podcast with Tucker. And a quick word from our sponsor, Insta360. I'm shooting this on the X3, the new X3. I've been using the X3 for about 2.5 months, and I've been blown away by this camera. In my opinion, it is the best 360 and action camera in one that you can buy right now. Now, I am sponsored by Insta360, but I swear, riders, this is a game changer for me because it shoots in a square format. I can edit for Instagram. I can edit for YouTube. I can also, if I'm just feeling a bit lazy and don't feel like editing, I can shoot it in the 4K lens mod. The colors are fantastic. The image stabilization is second to none. And I love it that it's all in one system. You know, you don't have to change lenses over. Before, when I was using the other brands, I had to have an Insta360 camera and an action camera, and they both cost about 500 bucks each. So this camera, for I believe is about 550 euros, is a sensational deal. And in the show notes, there is a link on where to get the best deals on Insta360. And now back to the podcast with Tucker. So the first question is, if someone's crossing over, so they are a very confident mountain biker, what would be a bike that you'd recommend for a mountain biker crossing over to the Emoto?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I know exactly what you mean when it comes to like all of the things that you need to worry about on a traditional dirt bike. Like there is just so much going on. And when you think about riding a mountain bike, I don't want to say you're just locked in one position. Obviously, you're pedaling and you've got brakes up on the bars, but when you're going downhill, you are very much in a locked position. And so when in comparison to a dirt bike, and so for a mountain biker that doesn't have dirt bike experience, that's crossing over and wants to try electric moto, I would go for a bike like the Sur Ron X. Sur Ron Light BX is
Yep.
what they would call it. And this is that lightweight bike. It's 115 pounds. It's got two power modes. So you can put it in eco and sport. So you could start out very easily, just taking it easy in eco, and you could always bump it up. But what's cool about them is like they're, to us moto riders, they're super lightweight,
Okay.
but that might not transition over for a mountain biker, right? Like you probably even see it with electric mountain bikes. Like I've had buddies, because I ride regular acoustic mountain bikes all the time, and I've got a lot of buddies that do. And when you put them on an electric mountain bike, they're like, "Oh, this thing's heavy."
Yeah.
And I'm like, after riding dirt bikes, like an electric EMTB is like super light, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I know that that's a feeling amongst mountain bikers if they haven't ridden a lot of moto yet. So I think going for like the ultra lightweight e-moto would transition
And
smoother for them, and so
and
that's why I'd
what
recommend Light B.
like and what sort of price range would that be? And what would be how many hours of riding would you get? How easy are they to transport? Like all that, that is it realistic for someone that's not set up as a motorbiker to be able to move them around?
For sure, and I would say this mostly, I'm coming from the standpoint of a dirt bike rider, and so, transporting a traditional dirt bike versus a mountain bike is, like, so much more complicated, but
Yeah.
for to me, when I get on one of these Surons, I'm like, "This is so easy," because they're light, you can pull the battery out, that makes it even lighter. You could even, like you could throw one of these in the back of, like, a station wagon or a
Okay.
SUV or something like that,
Yeah.
but you could also put it on a bike rack, external bike rack, and that type of thing, so they're pretty easy to transport. In terms of range, this applies to every single dirt bike out there. The factors that come into play are your weight, your riding style,
Yeah.
like how smooth are you on the throttle? Are you a person that rolls corners with a lot of momentum, or are you somebody that's like hard on the brakes, hard on the throttle? That has a huge impact. And the terrain that you're riding, if you're on flowy, kind of like fast, good momentum type trails,
Yeah.
you will stretch the range. But if you're like hammering up steep hills, stuff where you're on full throttle, it kills the battery quite a bit. But for a trail ride on a Suron, you can expect, 20 to 30 miles of riding. And
Okay.
it, whenever I say that out loud, like people are like, oh, that's not really enough. But I'm telling you, like, you can run a Suron from full to 10%, and you can put a really good ride in. You'll get a good ride for sure. The cool thing about the bikes too is if you care to, I mean, the entry price point at $4,500 is pretty low. So you could get a second battery for $1,000. Now you've got two batteries that you could swap out and double your ride. So
They're
I think
actually
things like that.
like, I mean, I'm just thinking at the moment, like, okay, so that's a good entry level motorbike.
Yeah.
Um, man, there's like that's cheap. Like in comparison
Yeah.
to what's going on, like like at the moment we've got like a Levo S Works at 15,000,
Right.
and I mean the Trek, the Santa Cruz, they're all the Yeti, they're all like the top ones are about 15, like, and all those top brands, you're not getting their base spec for less than 7.
Yeah.
Uh,
What electric mountain bike are you getting for $4,500? Is there even one that's like worth
yeah, you can
talking
get
about?
like yeah, you can get a giant Trance, a giant Rain, you can
Oh,
get
really?
something online, you could probably get a Canyon, you could get like there are stuff like, and also the entry level bikes are gonna be good for like a lot of riders, like those
Hmm.
entry level bikes, unless you're someone that like wants to jump or really wants to push a bike hard, like like those those base model bikes are better than what Sam Hill was racing like 10 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
And he did
Yeah.
a good job of that, like so you
Yeah,
can
for
you can
sure.
have a lot of fun on the base model bike.
Yeah. Don't
Um,
blame the tool.
no, no, totally. So yeah, that sounds sick, man. Okay, so what is my next question? I do have quite a few notes here for you, mate.
All right. Let's
I
dive
love it.
into
I
it.
love it. Okay, so um, I know that you were in Barcelona a couple of months ago,
I
and you were at
was. Yeah.
Dark Future release, were you?
Yes,
Um,
sir.
that might not be, but my next question is, and we were supposed to catch up, but you got COVID.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got COVID and I got stuck there for
That
almost 2
sucked.
full weeks in a
That
hotel room.
sucked.
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
could have picked worse places to be stuck, but yeah, man, it was not what I had planned for, that's for sure.
Next time you have to come over and ride for sure.
I was jonesing too, man. I'm so bummed that we didn't make that happen.
Oh, dude, we've moved to the country now for the mountains, so we're so close. But the next question is, no budget.
Yep.
Like, what is the sickest? What is the Levo S Works of the motorbike market?
Well,
The e-motos,
you predicted it, man.
the Stark.
It's definitely the Stark VARG, yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean, it's
man.
it's it's tough to say because technically at the moment that we're recording this right now, you can't personally have one of those in your garage yet, but very soon you will be able to. So I feel like just to not predate this podcast too much, like
Yep.
for sure Stark VARG, because it's coming soon. People have ridden it. Quite a few people have ridden it, and I mean, it is just a step above anything that's available right now for sure in
And
terms of
I mean,
performance.
I got a little bit excited when I saw that, and I went on their website, and riders, check out their website. It's a very slick brand. It's from the MX-24, isn't it? The guys that owned
Yeah.
MX-24.
Yep. Anton was one of the founders
Yeah,
of
smart.
24MX. Yeah, for sure.
24
So
MX. That's it.
he knows the industry. I mean, everybody over there, and you could tell, like all the engineers, everyone that's working there, like they ride dirt bikes, they get it, like, and it just the bike is a prime example of smart people like that coming together
Yeah,
to put the bike together for sure.
and they're also like, I mean, if I was an outsider looking in, which I am, I would guess that would be 15 to $20,000, that bike, but it's not.
Yeah.
What's it
No.
like, 12?
So there's two versions of it. You can get the 60 horsepower model, or you can
Yep.
get the 80 horsepower model. And that's just tuning. That's just coming through the controller. And so the 60 horsepower is 13,000, currently 13,000 USD, and the 80 horsepower is $1,000 more, 14,000 USD.
I mean, it's not.
So it's totally comparable to what you could expect from a high trim package on like a KTM internal combustion bike for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, man. Like I think some people balk at the price, but there's always people like that that will just do that no matter what. But for what you get, this being new technology, this being a young company, like that's a pretty reasonable price, all things considered. And for like those riders out there, like if you're, I mean, moto riders, like 60 horsepower, that their low end version, the thing is absolutely insane. It is so fast. Like it is, there are very few people that can ride a 450 motocross bike to its full potential, and those are usually 55, maybe 60 horsepower. And
Jesus.
so you
Wow.
expect, yeah, and it's like, and it's on the Stark, it's electric, so there's no gears. It's just instantaneous. You just get on that throttle and it just accelerates with no lag. It's a wild experience for sure.
I listened to the podcast of Anton on Gypsy Tales,
Yeah,
about a year ago, and it was a great
that was a great
podcast.
podcast. I listened to that too.
Interesting
Yeah.
guy. I'll put it in the show notes, writers. Really interesting guy, very like forward thinking. And I think he said, don't quote me, I think he said they put it on the open market and they sold 500 in the first day or something, like pre-sold.
I mean, I'm sure, because I know the website actually crashed from the amount of people that were logging on there to pre-order, and I know that I know it's somewhere around this, but I think it was like in the first 3 months, it was like 13,000 pre-orders.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's like
Yeah.
one of the most impressive
So there's
motorcycle
demand.
launches ever.
There's definitely demand there. I want to go
Yeah.
back to something that I just thought of then. So me and my mountain bike friends all went and rented motocross bikes for the day,
Yeah.
and we were sitting analyzing at the end, and they loved it, and I didn't really like it, and it's not that I didn't like it. I just didn't feel comfortable on the bike. And also I missed out on the social aspect of riding my bike with my buddies because
Yeah.
the motorbikes are so loud. I was like, we couldn't just talk shit to each other and
Yeah.
give and just go, come on, jump that, do this, do that, and
Yeah.
like you do on a mountain bike. And yeah, so that's got to be a massive bonus. Like if you're out riding with your buddies, you can hear each other.
Yeah, for sure. You can, absolutely. I mean, if you're that close, it's like a blessing and a curse though. If you're on a motocross track with gas bikes, they also can't hear you, you know? So it's like trying to coexist those two can be a little sketchy. Like I've tried to do some races where you're like trying to pass a gas bike. They have no idea that you're behind them, you know?
I didn't think
But
about that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's wild. Like, luckily, like some of the bikes actually have little horns on them, and it's like you just give them a little beep beep, let them know you're behind them. But yeah, the aspect of like riding with buddies, I mean, it's great. You can hear everything, and that totally gets drowned out when you're on a gas bike. But
Oh man,
you know,
yeah.
it's a singular kind of sport, you know, like the like I wonder if you're like downhill mountain biking, would you be, I feel like when you're on a trail ride, you're like a little more hooting and hollering, but like downhill mountain biking, maybe a little bit more like singular focus, kind of like moto.
Yeah. No, totally. It's more like when you're getting to the trails and you're like the day of, like, I was with my buddies for like 4 hours and I don't think we barely spoke to each other, and it's like a social
Yeah.
day out, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's like
for sure.
normally when we're out on our mountain bikes or electric mountain bikes, we'll ride up,
Yeah.
we'll stop at the trailhead, then we'll get ready, then we'll ride down, then we'll go up. So yeah, I definitely think, and also, I reckon we're gonna see them. I reckon we're gonna see that at the Supercross next year or in a couple of years. I think the Americans, I think it might be hard to get that in. What do you think?
To get like a Stark Varg into a supercross race,
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be hard, man.
yeah. I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of and I was with another guy and I was talking about the Stuff Arc, and he was so anti. He was like screaming, going, "No, no." I said, "I reckon we're going to see it at Supercross in the next couple of years." And he goes, "No, no. You need to smell the two-stroke. You need to smell it. Like it needs to have
Yeah.
the noise. It's not Supercross if it doesn't." I was like, "Dude, it's the
I
future."
I don't disagree with him, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm here to promote electric dirt bikes. That's totally, my bag with the ECR channel, but I still love gas bikes. Like I
Yeah,
own a 4-stroke and a 2-stroke, and um I see what people are concerned about, but it's like anything, man. People are afraid of change, and I personally don't want 4-strokes or 2-strokes to go away, especially in a race environment. But what I think would be super cool is to have a specific class for Emoto to compete as well. And I know that
yeah,
that's not what Stark wants. Stark wants to race the gas bikes and prove that the bike is superior. And I totally understand that, but I don't come at this from a place of like, this is better and we have to change. It's like, this is another option for you to have a good time on two wheels. Like, that's
yeah,
always been my perspective on it. I'm not
yeah,
trying to take the environmental stance. I'm just trying to take, like, in the right application, these bikes are great, but I'm not going to be the one that says, like, these bikes are better than a gas bike because yeah, in some regards they are, but they in some regards they definitely are not. And so it's like I just try to be realistic with that. But man, I get it from both sides for sure. I know exactly who your buddy is, who you're talking about.
I'm gonna definitely take the standpoint that electric mountain bikes are better than normal
Okay.
mountain bikes, only for a specific age group.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, fair enough.
yesterday I was riding with my old buddies from Adelaide,
Hmm.
and there was like 5 of us out, and everyone's in their 40s. Everyone apart from me has kids. Everyone has a busy job, and we went out for 2 hours, and we smashed probably like 1,000 meters of vertical climbing, like maybe 2,000 foot, like a decent ride.
Yeah.
Everyone still rides well because they're riding a lot more.
Hmm.
Um, and the fitness level, there's no like, you know, some guys are not as fit as others. Some guys drink too much beer, probably me. And
Yep.
but like for our age group, I just see it as such a bonus. And
Totally.
but when I was 15 or 20, I don't want to see kids on electric mount. Like I don't want to see like
Hmm.
that 15-year-old little Grom on a e-bike. I want to see him earn his turns, like we did back in the day. Uh, but
Totally,
I
man.
but I think for the older riders, they're just so. And I got my mate this year or last year, Nico the Aussie punter. I got him out, and he's a big boy and he works a lot. And he would have got on a mountain bike. And if he bought a mountain bike, it would have stayed in the shed for like the whole year and maybe got out once. But now
Yeah.
he rides every weekend. And I just think that aspect is just, it's opened up the sport so much. It's amazing.
Totally, man. Yeah, no, I think that that's honestly a similar thing for the motorbikes too. It's just it's getting riders. They're probably what I call like a vet rider, somebody that's been on dirt bikes for a long time. But you get old, you get a little, bones break a little bit easier. You're a little bit more out of shape, and you just want to have like a more of a mellow kind of experience, or just be able to kind of customize it. And I think the e motos hit that same demographic, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that like I don't want to see a Grom on an Emoto, but I want to see it like almost as a complement to their normal riding. And I've
Yep.
seen that before. It's like you get these little, amateur phenoms that are just probably going to be in the pro ranks. And like, yeah, when you're done doing your motos, hop on a Sur Ron and go rip a little mini supercross track. That'd be,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love that
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, man, it's like, it's just cool to have options. Like that's what I'm all about. And I think in 2022, like whether you pedal bikes or you twist throttle, like what a great time to ride on two wheels, man. There's so many options to
Dude,
ride,
it's
and it's
just
like the bikes are
exploding.
so good.
Yeah, it's just exploding. Now going on to value, I mean,
Yeah,
everything went up in 2022, 21, 22. Everything's gone up like, 20 or 30%.
for sure.
It's just crazy. Hopefully, maybe we'll come back down a little bit, but who knows? Now, what would be like the best value, best performing, what would you buy um, if you had like a not a limited budget, but like the best value in your opinion?
For sure. Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. I might break that into like a couple different categories, but and I don't mean to sound repetitive, but the Sur Ron Light Bee X is just such a good value. At
Yeah.
$4,500, you can get on it. And that was the first electric dirt bike that I owned too. You get on it, you can get familiar with what this whole thing is all about. And you can either leave it completely stock and have a great time for $4,500, just keep it as is, or you can modify this thing to the moon. Like there are so many
I've seen.
options. It's crazy, like people
Yeah.
are throwing Stark Varg type money at a Sur Ron Light BX and like making them crazy. And so it's like, that part of it, I think that's another cool part of just the e-moto culture is these bikes have really invited people to, customize them and make them their own. And it's built a cool community, but it's just nice to have those options and you can really modify it. So I would say like best value out of the box. I mean, how do you argue the $4,500?
It's
It's
awesome.
probably pretty similar to, the budget e-mountain bikes that you're talking about. Like you can buy that bike, you can have a great time on it, but if you want it to ride better, okay, now swap out the fork, maybe
Yeah.
do the shock.
You
You
can,
can you
yeah,
can
you can
add
grow into it.
components.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I
Yeah.
I feel like the Light BX is the same way. The only thing with that I should preface is like it's a small bike, and it's that's kind of the beauty of it. But you do want to open up the cockpit a little bit, like put bigger bars on it, maybe drop the pegs. You can do things like that just to make it feel a little bit bigger. But I think best value definitely going for the Sur Ron Light BX. But um, right now, another bike that I just absolutely have loved for the last few years is the KTM Freeride E XC.
Hmm.
And now you're getting into full dirt bike price.
Yeah.
So you're up, in the when I think it was 10.5, I think it's 11.5 now
Yep.
USD.
Yep.
So, but when you look at it, a lot of people are going to buy a Sur Ron Light BX and put $6,000 into that bike. So, if you
Yeah.
really want more of a quote unquote proper dirt bike, then I'd say the KTM Freeride E XC is currently a really good value.
At 11. Oh yeah. Sweet. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
that's good. That's so like the Sur at 4.5 would be something like for an entry, yeah. And then if you want something really sick, the KTM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
KTM. Yeah. I mean, really sick. It needs some improvement. Not gonna lie to you. Like it's
Yeah.
for what our options are. Like a Stark Varg is gonna blow the KTM out of the water
Yeah.
in the performance category. But for a bike that you can get today and have proper WP suspension on it, 18 kilowatts of power, a large battery, like kind of more proper ergonomics, 21-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear. KTM Freeride E XC is going to be the way to go for sure.
Okay. Sweet. Back in the day, I think in 1995, I had a Yamaha XT four-stroke on-road, off-road beast that
Legend.
weighed in a lot. I think it had a
Yeah.
steel frame.
Yeah, for sure. They're heavy.
And I took it to because I used to race BMX. I raced BMX from when I was like 4 to 18,
Nice.
and
Same
all
here.
my. Did you? You raced
I
BMX?
did. Hmm.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice,
Yep. When I
nice.
was a youngster.
Yeah, that's good. And I took my off-road on-road to the BMX track and started jumping all the like not a good idea. Just kind of like just took it and just was so young and dumb and like I rode it really hard for a few months, almost had like a couple of big crashes and then
Yeah.
sold it. So my motorbike, like my experience of motorbike was very short-lived. But if someone like wanted to have an on-road, off-road sort of something they could use for, they could register it, or even
Hmm.
maybe they don't have to register it, I don't know. And they could use it during the week to commute and on the weekend for a bit of off-road. Is there anything on the market for that?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that, and it's also highly dependent on who is listening right now. Where do you live? Because the manufacturers, like some of the same bikes, are not street legal in the U.S. as what you would get in Europe or even
Yep.
Australia. And so, I'm going to speak. I'll start with just kind of what I would recommend to US riders because that's where we're based. But the Zero FX is, in my opinion, the best dual sport for that type of thing because it's platable. You can put a license plate on it, legally ride on the road. It's got decent range. It's a relatively heavy bike. It's pushing almost 300 pounds, but it's more of a dual sport kind of oriented bike. So it's a little bit more street oriented, a little less dirt, but it'll still get the job done if you want to take it off road a little bit.
Mm,
So I think that is like if you're going to do a crossover bike, that's the one that I would pick. But for you, if you're in Australia or back in Spain, you could get a Sur Ron Storm Bee, which
okay.
is the full size Sur Ron, and that is a bit more dirt oriented, but I believe you're able to plate that in both of those countries. And honestly, the same goes, I believe, for the KTM Freeride E XC. You can also plate those in Europe and Australia. So
Because I kind of think like if I was looking at an Emoto, I think I'd be
yeah,
looking at something like a plate because
yeah,
I could get to the trails without having to put it in my camper van, which would be a pain in the ass. And I could also use it to do the groceries and just have a bit of
hmm,
fun, have a little zip out, like I think I'd prop that probably I think that's probably the market for me, and probably a lot
totally,
of riders out there, like, it would be if you're not I wouldn't be necessarily looking for a performance bike. I think it'd be more like a bit of fun, and it does have capabilities of going off-road. So that's good. That's good
yeah,
to
for
know.
sure. I'm gonna throw one more in there before we move on because it
Yeah, yeah.
hasn't come out yet. But Suron has the Ultra Bee, which is like basically their bike in between. It's their midweight bike, so it's in
Okay.
between their full size Storm and their lightweight Light Bee, and it'll should be out in a couple of months here. And I believe in Europe and Australia that'll be street legal. It won't be here in the US, but
Why
if
is
that
that?
bike lives up to its name, it's going to be a great option for a
Okay.
dual sport.
Who
Yeah.
owns Sur Ron?
Well, they're their own company,
Okay.
but they're a
Chinese?
Chinese based company.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought for some reason that, who was the company that did the two-wheel, like,
Oh, you're thinking of Segway.
Segway? I thought Segway
Yeah.
owned them for some reason.
So they were originally like a large shareholder of the company, but I believe they've split ways since, and so yeah, the Surround's a standalone company as far as I know,
Yep.
and so is
Nice.
Segway. I think they're off doing their own thing now too.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So the
Yeah,
last question I have for you, Tucker, mate. So no budget
yeah,
and maybe like whatever you can talk about, because I know there's always things, but if you can't talk about it, don't talk about it.
yep,
What would be your bike today that you'd pick?
for sure. Well,
No budget.
I mean, no budget.
The killer.
The killer is the Stark Varg. I
Okay.
mean, it's just hands down. It's gonna crush everything that's available right now. I mean, it's like the Stark Varg is basically it took everything that Alta was Alta Redshift, which was a highly popular, full size electric dirt bike, and just made it better. It's like the chassis. It's got full KYB suspension. It's got gobs and gobs of power. We're talking, 60 or 80 horsepower, just ridiculous power. And the fit and finish is just top notch. So that bike is going to crush them all. But like I said, you can't own one in your garage yet. So
Yeah.
that makes it kind of tough, But you will be able to soon. And the Stark VARG is just the crusher. It's
I
just,
mean, yeah, I'd say anyone that's interested in that brand, go listen to that podcast because that guy is, I was just sitting, it was like a 3-hour podcast or something. It's just so
yeah.
impressive. He's just like
Yeah.
such an interesting dude.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy, really smart and just ambitious, clearly, with this project that he's taken on, this whole company. And yeah, it's an exciting bike, and I can't wait for it to show up for sure.
Like I think, yeah, what I heard in the podcast, he sold his MX-24 shares
Yep,
or his part. He could have just retired. Like
totally, man.
he basically just like made so much money out of that, could have retired. And anyone that's not into motos, I didn't even know what MX-24 is, but riders, it's probably like Chain Reactions or I don't know. It's the biggest online selling like platform for motocross.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like biggest in Europe, that's for sure. Yeah, he's done some big things, and he's a young guy too, he's like very, very accomplished. And yeah, this project, I mean, this bike is he's involved all the right people. It's top notch for sure.
So could I ride it or would I kill
Absolutely. And
myself?
that's you could if you wanted to. We could turn that sucker up to 80 horsepower and just let you loose. But yeah, no, it's like that's the cool thing about Emoto, man. You can on a bike like that, you'll be able to dial everything down. Like they messed with me when I started out on it the first time. They turned the power like way down and set me off, and I was like, it's funny because it's like this can't be the real bike, but you can dumb the thing down and make it feel like a 50cc
Oh,
little,
cool.
little
Yeah,
PB
that's
bike if
cool.
you
So
wanted
you
to.
can
So
really like train yourself. So you say the first week you do it at a low, then you just like get it
yeah,
up, up, up. Oh, sweet. Well,
the
that's
only
great.
thing, yeah, the only thing with the Stark, it's like it's a full size bike, so you've got like 30, I think it's like 37-inch seat height, so it's tall, and it's 248 pounds, I think, and so it's like that would be the only hurdle to overcome. But power wise, you could detune it. You could put both of the brakes up on the handlebars, just like you would on a mountain bike. So like that would feel really comfortable
Mm.
or at home for mountain bike riders. And so yeah, if you can stomach the height and weight of it, Stark Varg, man, all day, whether you're a beginner or a pro, for sure.
Sweet. So I'm just thinking of a few more questions. Pretty much finished the questions that I've had, and thank you for answering them. But what do
Yeah.
you think? Like the traditional motocross brands. We got Yamaha, we got Honda, Suzuki. Who else have we got? Like KTM. Uh,
KTM Group would be Husky, Gas, KTM.
okay.
Yep. Hmm.
So why, apart from KTM, why aren't the other guys getting in? What's the what's the hold
You
up?
know, I have a theory on it. Like they're all working on it. I know for sure behind closed doors, all of those manufacturers have something awesome.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a completely new market, and KTM kind of dipped their foot in by releasing the Freeride E XC. But if they just come out with a bike that is just amazing, it's going to cannibalize their entire gas lineup, if it's really successful. But the other thing too is like you think about all R&D for these motorcycles comes pretty much from the race teams, It's like you have
Wait,
Supercross and motocross
hang on.
that are getting the new models. They're putting it through the ringer, and that gets trickled down into eventually the production motorcycles. And
Yeah.
there's no current infrastructure to race electric bikes. Like, you know, it's an interesting new frontier, and it's almost kind of reminiscent of the switch from two-stroke to four-stroke. There was a time where two strokes just reigned supreme on the motocross and supercross track. Like that was it. Bringing
Yeah.
four-stroke would be ridiculous because they're slow, they're heavy, and they've got soft trail suspension on it. But Yamaha was the first one to take the plunge. They released their bike that competed with the two strokes, and it just changed the entire script. And so whether or not Stark gets that opportunity and whether or not that same thing happens, we'll see. But just know that every single manufacturer has an awesome bike, in the back room being
I'm sure.
designed.
It does seem a little bit like reminiscent of like what Tesla did like 10 years ago. And now
Mhm.
Tesla is just like obviously world leading in electric cars, but a lot of the big manufacturers just stayed back for a long time. Like we see it now, everyone's got their good electric cars,
Yep,
but they just weren't entering. And
for sure,
it does seem a bit reminiscent of that. And yeah, you're probably right. It's going to cannibalize all their petrol bikes.
for sure.
But only I just see like, I mean, KTM, I just see like if someone else gets in as well, they'll all have to jump in. Like if
Yeah,
if Yam goes or Honda goes, like hard in, they'll all go.
definitely. And I think that that's what's happening behind closed doors is like they're all getting ready for that next jump, But if you think about it too, most of the moto manufacturers, aside from the KTM group, they're largely Japanese and just typically Japanese take a long time to develop and make sure that their product is really meets the standards before it's released. And I think
Mm,
that could have something to do with it too. Like changes don't happen fast with Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda. Like they just, they're very calculated and it takes a bit of time. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of it too. Why we haven't seen anything. Like
yeah,
Honda has teased a little bit their performance side. Mugen has developed a CRF. Well, I guess it'd be a CRE 450, and
yeah,
yeah, it looks amazing. But when that thing will be released, we
yeah,
shall see.
yeah. I think it's very interesting. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
But mate, we're done. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And riders,
awesome.
if you have any questions for Tucker, put them down on the comments here, or head over to his YouTube channel, subscribe, because in my opinion, you make the best e-motorbike content online.
I
And
appreciate that, Sam.
oh,
And
dude,
we'd
I
love to
really
have you guys. If you want to come over and watch me ramble about electric dirt bikes, come on over for sure. We'd love
and
to
it's
have
all
you.
very well shot as well. Your production is spot on. So thank you, mate. And
Appreciate that.
we're going to see you soon.